Welcome to the Saga, the Clone Saga podcast presented by the students of S.H.I.E.L.D. This podcast, we're reading and talking about the entire infamous 1990s Spider-Man Clone Saga and everything related to it. In this episode, we're going to be reading 2 issues and then talking about our overall thoughts going into the actual Clone Saga. And those issues are going to be What If, Volume 1, number 30, and Spectacular Spider-Man, number 216. So my name is Vincent, and I have with me this time
I am Nick.
And Mike.
And Nick, who's sponsoring us this time?
Today's sponsor is actually going to be Spider-Man today.
Wow.
For some synergy.
But which Spider-Man?
Actual Spider-Man.
Okay. All right. So
Does the actual Spider-Man knows he's Spider-Man, or does he think he's a clone?
He knows he's Spider-Man. There's no clone shenanigans for actual Spider-Man.
So, real quick recap from last episode. So, Carrion was introduced first as just a villain and a sequel to the Clone Saga, and then by the same guy who wrote the original Clone Saga, Jerry Conway, he used Carrion as a tool, basically to retcon and tie up some bunch of loose ends. And for the most part, like he kind of made it so that this shouldn't have happened. Like he tied up most stuff. He revealed that the Jackal didn't have actual cloning technology. And I'm pretty sure the note we left off on, the Spider-Man clone was revealed as Anthony Serba with the clone virus, and then his body ended up getting destroyed. And so now we'll move into What If number 30, which is What If Spider-Man's clone had survived?
What if indeed?
And I believe, and so this was published cover date December 1981, which places it kind of in the middle of the stuff from last episode. I think it's after the original Carrion Saga, but before all of the Jerry Conway stuff. Cover price was 75 cents. It was written by Bill Flanagan, who I've definitely never heard of. And I looked into his bibliography. I have no idea who this guy is. He also wrote this issue of What If. He wrote one issue of the Hulk magazine, which was sometimes known as Rampaging Hulk, the black and white one, which was somewhat inspired by the TV show. Also,
Moon Knight backups.
It did have Moon Knight backups, but the actual Hulk stuff was later retconned. The entire series is retconned to be fake. It's like it was explained as like an actual TV show, which is funny because it's like inspired by the TV show. And this guy, Bill Flanagan, he also was somehow attached to a Gundam Wing manga for Viz.
What the hell?
And so I'm guessing it was him translating it. But if he's translating a manga, you think he has like other translating experience? I don't know.
Is Bill Flanagan like a? Is it like what's the name for directors who don't want to take credit?
Yeah,
Is it,
I mean, I was thinking if it's like a pseudonym or something like that, but I'm not really sure. Maybe I'll dig a little bit deeper later. It doesn't really matter. If I find anything interesting, I'll put it in the description or comment. This issue is drawn by Rich Buckler, who was like a Bronze Age Marvel and DC mainstay. Did a lot of Fantastic Four and I think some JSA and Invaders kind of stuff. But I mean, this is whatever. But the cover is by Bob Layton, and this issue is actually collected in What If Classic Volume 5.
I just want to say, beginning September 12th on NBC, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, guys.
Yeah, on the cover. Which is funny because last episode we also had some of the issues advertising a TV show.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think of this overall?
I think it was fine as a what if. I think it should have stayed as a what if and not gone anywhere further than that. But as like a self-contained story, I mean, it was all right.
I thought this issue was trash.
Really?
I liked these 2 issues more than the entire Carrion stuff.
I have no idea how. I thought the art's not terrible, but like I don't know if it just like this isn't really what Rich Buckler was like fit for. He's not a good Spider-Man artist. But the writing on this what if issue is so bad.
I think
I thought it was terrible. Like
I
it
thought it was
opens up.
hilarious. Okay.
Yeah, it's like campy, but I don't think it's intentional. Like it opens up with the jackal like literally going like ha ha, but like it's not like it, but like in a like over the top way that like I don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't
I mean,
it didn't even feel like the Jerry Conway stuff that is like
No.
based on originally.
What's funny is Miles Warren is like he's drawn very like a feeble old man in when we first saw him. Now he's just a buff dude.
Yeah, also there's a bunch of inconsistencies there with Miles Warren in this issue. I don't really understand it because the scene at Shea Stadium, he's not wearing his mask at all in this issue. I don't think we see his mask on once.
Nope, we don't.
no, we don't.
And it doesn't even look like he has like the upper part of his costume. It looks like he's wearing like a shirt because you see like buttons and a collar. Yeah,
I
but
guess he's
but
wearing all
then
green pants too, because when you see like
yeah, but then in one of the panels you
Green
see a
leg.
green foot,
yeah,
like he's wearing the bottom half of his costume. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
This issue totally misrepresents what happened in the original story.
yeah, it's an alternate telling.
Well, I should say, even though I liked this stuff more than the Carrion stuff, that's just because I didn't like the Carrion stuff. This is worse. I just want to say this is a worse comic, but like I liked it because it entertained me more.
No, but to clarify, Nick, the what ifs, the way a what if works is it goes up to a certain point that exactly the same way that 616 happens, and it diverges at a specific point. And the specific point here is supposed to be during Shea Stadium. So all this, like most of the stuff in Shea Stadium up until like the bomb goes off shouldn't really be different. So I mean, I don't know. Like some of this is obviously nitpicky, but it doesn't make sense. But then once it does diverge, I should note that this issue and only this issue takes place on Earth 81,141. All the what if issues have their own Earths. Also, I mean, obviously, from the whole point of this podcast, like this what if happened, and the whole joke is like a huge percentage of the what ifs ended up happening. Like, what if Thor was a woman? What if there's dozens of them. And so
Most of
yeah,
my
this
entertainment comes from the clone just like swinging around trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious how long it takes him to even consider that he could be the clone. Like he's so
Yeah, I
except
know.
that he thinks he's Peter Parker, and yet all these things don't add up to him. It's sort of ridiculous.
I love when he goes the bugle and he's like, all right, Betty Brant's offered me a ride. Hopefully she knows where I live.
So the way a lot of what ifs works, I believe, is like fans would just like they just send letters like to Marvel, even all the way back in the beginning, and they just be like, "What if this happened?" And so Marvel was just like, "Well, let's make them pay for that shit." And so occasionally they base a what if directly on like questions fans would ask, and apparently a like measurable amount of people were asking, well, why couldn't both Spider-Men live? And so I guess this is to answer that. Yeah, Miles Warren is inconsistent. Also, they misrepresent like the whole turning point in that Shea Stadium encounter, where in the original story, it's Gwen like breaks out of her conditioning from the hypnosis and then like starts like yelling at Miles Warren and calling him a murderer, and then he cracks. In this one, it's like he realizes that she'll never love him, which again, like now they're using that like more romantic thing, whereas in the original story that wasn't clear yet.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like he just randomly realizes that she'll never love him, so he does it himself. And so like, I mean, it's not like she's an important character in the original story anyways, but like the Gwen clone kind of gets shafted by this retelling. And then obviously, like the original story then has Gwen going away, And like that's even alluded to in this. Like it still happens in this timeline, but we don't see that at all. So like, we don't see Gwen for a single panel after Shea Stadium. And yeah, it's kind of like that whole audience thing where we know it's the clone then that like survives.
Mm-hmm.
The other one's like in the clone tube, like incapacitated for a while, but he doesn't realize it for like several pages. He's pretty dumb.
Yeah, it takes him a long time to figure it out.
There is some funny stuff though, like some of like him, like the differences between where he like from where he comes in the timeline versus where real Peter had progressed. Some of it's funny, like he thinks that he views Harry Osborn as a jerk because like they didn't get along super well at the very beginning, and he expects Flash to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, the Flash. He's like, oh my god, it's Flash Thompson.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember. There's like a close-up panel when he sees Betty or something like that, and I thought the art was just trash. Like that specific panel stood out to me so much.
It's funny. It looks like he's strung out on something.
Yeah. The other thing is so basically he's coming from. I tried to like figure it out. So
he looks like he's hot.
There's a reference to Amazing Spider-Man 26, and it says like a few months or maybe a few weeks even.
Yeah. So Peter enters. I'm pretty sure he enters college in 28. I think. Miles Warren, for what it's worth, first appears in 31. I don't think the sample collecting, like, I don't think that was the story originally before the Clone Saga.
Probably not.
I think that was just, like, they retconned it in there. And he doesn't recognize Kingpin. He fights Kingpin in this issue and doesn't recognize him. Kingpin first appears in 50. And so he's probably coming, like, this clone is coming from around Amazing Spider-Man 32, 33, something like that. He was a freshman in college rather than the super senior that the real Peter Parker is due to his gym credits. One part, so when he eventually like finds his apartment,
yeah,
he says that half the clothes don't fit him.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make a ton of sense. Like, from a freshman in college, I mean, why are they different sizes?
Freshman 15.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
I also like how in his apartment he recognizes that it's probably his because of the microscope, and there's a wooden Indian. It's a comment about something like, does Peter have a wooden Indian?
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. I guess it was he was getting a little more hip in those 70s.
Those were popular at that time, I guess.
Instead of buying furniture, Peter Parker decided to buy a wooden Indian head.
I feel like that would be cultural appropriation nowadays.
Yeah, probably would not go over
Native
well.
American.
It's a shame Billy's not here because this clone is also a jerk to cops.
Yeah. And
he keeps a jerk in
Spider-Man tradition.
Yeah, it's a Spider-Man staple.
The only thing though is in that fight with the cops, like, I don't know what Rich Buckler was doing. I don't know if he was just bored. There was like one page where like the layout was like really interesting, where it was like all these like weird circles and like it went in like a S shape on the page.
I like that.
But then the whole rest of the comic just is like totally normal.
This issue we have the arrows to identify where we're supposed to go.
Yeah, I love those old arrows. Like a lot of the like Marvel issues from like the 60s. Whenever they did something remotely off the beaten path on the layout, they'd have arrows on like every panel.
What's funny is that like you have that in the Marvel books, but if you remember, have you ever read like Neil Adams' Dead Man stuff?
Yeah.
You don't get any of that with that. It's just kind of funny.
So then he like finally figures out that he's the clone, and then like multiple days go by.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, I should probably go back to the other Peter Parker." and check in on that.
Well, he doesn't go back until he's confronted by Kingpin.
Yeah, and he just kind of leaves him.
And I like how, like, for a solid bit, he's like, should I just kill the real Peter Parker?
He's like,
He's
he
like,
would just
I gotta
kill
just
me.
pull the plug. So he wakes him up,
Except
and then
far funny.
And then they go to Coney Island together.
yeah, and then they fight Kingpin sort of together, and then this conclusion makes no sense.
Oh yeah,
There it is.
it ends so abruptly. He's just like, all right, I'll go away forever, like Gwen did, and then he's like, no, you should stay. let's like alternate being Spider-Man on days of the week.
But that doesn't
you
work
take
at all.
Monday, Wednesday, I'll take Tuesday, Thursday. We flip for weekends.
Yeah, and the real Peter says, I'll take MJ and you can take Doc Ock. But, like, what is the clone going to do, like, all day when he's not Spider-Man?
I don't know.
Is he just going to sit in the closet? Like,
This is the book I want. I want to know how they do this.
because the clone, like, it's not like they can sub out, like, when Pete, like, real Peter's as Spidey. It's not like the clone can go date MJ, because that would just be super awkward. And, like, can he even sell photos to the Bugle? Like, I feel like that would also inevitably be awkward. Like, what does he do with his life? Does he go to class? Is he a friend?
Well, he
Is
can't
Peter
go to
Parker?
class.
Well, he
He's
said
not smart enough to know the classes he's at.
Yeah, exactly. Is Peter Parker simultaneously registered as a freshman and a senior? This doesn't. I mean, it's a what if. So, like, it's like, what if this dumbass thing happened, and then
Also,
there's a short
noticeable
story.
difference between them. Like, the clone is a twig.
Yeah, which I think that's actually, like, somewhat interesting. That concept where they're actual, like, different, like, age and physically.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I thought this was pretty dumb, and, like, it doesn't really hint at all towards anything coming up. Obviously,
No. I mean, I kind of like it as its own little what if, though.
yeah.
It was there's a few funny things.
I thought it was stupid fun, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
There's an Inhuman story in the back, but I didn't read that.
Yeah, there was no reason to. That Inhuman story, I don't think I can get up and get it quickly enough. That Inhuman story is not a what if. It's, like, just totally like an Inhuman story, and is collected in the second Inhumans Masterwork.
Inhuman story.
Yeah, it's in the Inhumans Masterwork Volume 2. All right, so now let's move into Spectacular Spider-Man 216. This came out September 1994, and it's plotted by Tom DeFalco, but it's scripted by Todd DeZago, and it's drawn by Sal Buscema.
Can we just take a minute to look at this cover first?
What about it?
It is wild. My favorite thing is look at the Marvel Comics logo, if you have it pulled up.
I do.
Look at the Marvel Comics logo, and then look at the Spider-Man below it. This cover just says it's the 90s. It's just...
Scorpion's not looking too.
Also, who did the cover art for this? This doesn't look like Sal.
I'll double check. I think it isn't.
It looks a little bit more like a Ty Templeton almost with the faces, but that just might be.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Covers is attributed to Sal.
Okay.
On the wiki, and it doesn't say anything inside otherwise.
Okay.
But yeah, I think he might have just gone for a different style on some of the covers.
It looks good. I like the cover.
So real quick, what did you guys think of this just overall?
It's the plot of Ghostbusters 2.
Maybe
With the slime and anger. Real Ghostbusters 2 vibes from that.
Slime was kind of odd.
Yeah, I didn't understand the slime at all.
Like, this is part 2 of a story, but I'm pretty sure it's probably not in part 1.
It actually, like, for a half second, I was like, "Oh shit, is the spider amoeba back?"
Yeah, I was
That's what I thought
like,
too.
oh my god, it's the spider amoeba, and then like
Yeah. My first.
it was soul crushing to find out that it wasn't.
Yeah, so like,
So
there's a few plots going on that don't have like 100% the context for, but you can figure out pretty easily.
There are multiple panels in this book where Spider-Man is just drawn like Deadpool.
Is he? Oh yeah. With his like eyes.
Distinct
It's like a
close-ups of
close-up.
his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Deadpool.
So real quick on Buscema. Sal Buscema was the ongoing artist on Spectacular from issues 134 to 238,
Oh wow.
which is 105
Wow.
issues across almost 9 years. And he actually also helped launch the title way back in 1976 and drew most of the first 20 issues. And in that very beginning, and then some of the stuff we read last episode, a third of his time on Spectacular was with Jerry Conway. And at this point, this issue is not written by Jerry Conway. At this point, Conway is done with Spider-Man, and he really wouldn't return to write anything Spider-Man related until 2015 when he got a few really minor stuff, and then later he'd get Carnage and Renew Your Vows. And so Conway's had like a 20-year break from Spider-Man.
Wow.
And actually, yeah, so this is 216, so we'll have a lot of Buscema for a while after this. And I'm pretty sure this is the book. I believe it's Spectacular, where Buscema's still drawing it for a while into the Clone Saga, but an inker for a while is Bill Sienkiewicz.
Ooh.
So Bill Sienkiewicz is going to be. I'm pretty sure Bill Sienkiewicz is definitely inking one of the books during the Clone Saga for a period, but I'm pretty sure it's this. And so that'll be interesting as we get to that.
Sienkiewicz is kind of like a guy that confuses me because, yeah, I started out not liking his art. Now I really, really like it. But like, why wasn't he drawing more books, or did he just enjoy like inking as well as drawing?
I'm not really sure. I don't really have an answer on that, but I think his start may have actually been in inking. He did a lot of inking. And I think some of it is that, like, if he was able to handle the art himself completely, then he has a very stylized look, which
Yeah.
that's going to work on a lot of books like Elektra and Moon Knight, where like that's, you know, relevant to the character and the story. But like, would you necessarily want Sienkiewicz on an ongoing Spider-Man book as the penciler?
No, he has a very distinct style that has to fit a certain mood for a certain book.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And so yeah, this is part 2 of a story featuring Scorpion. What is this? What is it called? It's like the Predator and the Prey.
Yeah.
And the joke, well, the point of the title is that it's a role reversal, and so Spider-Man's the Predator and Scorpion's the Prey this time.
Yeah.
What's funny is we open this issue with Mac Gargan in a sewer with a coffee machine, sitting and having tea across from the now lifeless body of the Scorpion suit.
It's like he's shed.
Yeah.
So a few continuity catch-up things. Glory Grant is now Jonah's secretary. Betty left to do whatever. I don't really know. Do you guys remember Nick Katzenberg?
Yeah, he's
from
dead now.
last episode.
Yeah.
It might have actually been shown in a different issue. I don't really know. Eyes off panel. Like we don't. It just like it's like a small mention from Jonah. Jonah's like, oh yeah, he's dead now. Or no,
Glory
he tells him
he's dead, and he's like, "Oh
Yeah,
my
Glory
god!" Like,
We never get
So-
to see it. So
he
sad.
died off panel of lung cancer, which I don't think is mentioned in this book.
oh, they say he
And
had
yeah, but it's lung cancer because I believe he like someone. I think it might be MJ. Maybe like MJ seeing him dying of lung cancer like motivates her to do something. I don't know. It's not like she was smoking, but like that was some weird plot
He was
device.
smoking.
I recall him smoking cigarettes the 2 times we did see him.
Yeah. And so the other thing is this issue has these Cussler characters. There's a Cussler Senior and a Cussler Junior.
Yeah.
And just from the context, like I can like understand the very basics, but like I didn't totally understand what the fuck was going on with them.
Senior is drawn like Rupert
Um,
Thorne from Batman.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. And both of them only had 2 appearances in this story, so they don't matter.
That's funny.
Um,
We see Jonah's wife,
Yeah, we get
Yeah, Jonas.
with Marla and Jonah.
which Marla's drawn like 30 years younger than
Because she is.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, it's like I'm pretty. I don't know how like exact the difference is, but she's like she is younger than him, I believe, right?
I totally forgot that Jonah had a wife.
Well,
She doesn't
Nick, how did she
I'm
die?
pretty sure she gets killed by a spider slayer.
Yeah. Which is ironic because that's how they met. She was building the next version of the Spider Slayer for Jonah.
It's all connected.
When did she die?
It goes, during
She died
Saga
during during big time.
somewhat early on. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was actually it's like because that's when like Jonah was becoming mayor, and
What is he doing now? He's no longer mayor, right?
No.
He, I can't remember.
I think Slot might have. I think during the Parker Industries era or whatever, I think Slot might have sequestered him away, similar to.
He's in the Spectacular run currently.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he just had a sit down with Spider-Man, where he revealed his identity to him.
So Aunt May is in the hospital again.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is Aunt May is in the hospital, and Peter Parker sees Matt Gargan in the hospital. So it's almost like it's a callback to the original Clone Saga, because we saw Spider-Man have a confrontation with the Scorpion in the hospital.
Yeah.
Where Aunt May was. It's weird.
Yeah. So, but this time she's in the hospital for a somewhat more serious than usual reason. She's had a stroke.
Yeah.
And she might come out for a little bit and then go back in, but I think she's kind of indefinitely in the hospital right now. Without spoiling too much of what's to come.
Well, I know what's to come.
Well,
but it didn't stick.
And so there's also been an ongoing subplot in the Spidey books about a mystery character.
Yes.
And I don't think is it on the corner of this one? No, yeah, it's on the top. At last, you and Spidey learn the incredible secret of the Mystery Man.
So
and
what is this just like a shadowy figure that's been seen past few issues?
Yeah, like for most of them, he's like honestly, I went and looked at some of them. Like the last, like 2 before this, it's still pretty obvious. Like he shows up at the high school and is like, I went to high school here, and like you can pretty much see his face in that issue. And so spoilers, this is the clone, based pretty much. And so before this is Spectacular 216. He had shown up as the Mystery Man or whatever in Spectacular 215, Amazing 393, Web of Spider-Man 114 to 116, and Agents with Spider-Man 48 to 50. And this issue is the one that finally reveals like his face in full, and it's pretty obvious that it's the clone.
Yep.
But we don't get Ben yet, right?
Name.
There's no name.
Yeah, no name.
He's only referred to as Mr. Parker by the nurse when he's in the hospital with Aunt May.
Yeah, so Ben Reilly, as we'll come to know him, is creeping on Aunt May in the hospital.
He's paying his respects.
Meanwhile, Matt Gargan. See, the thing is, since I didn't read the previous issue, like I don't totally know what's going on. So like, it's not clear until the fight, like whether Matt is like genuinely turning a new leaf, or if he's just like turning a new leaf but is still being a criminal.
It seems like
It's not like
trying to, but like this was his last like this was his get out score.
yeah, because I guess that was like what happens in 215. Like there's reference to some robbery or something.
Yeah.
And him and Kessler are in cahoots.
Yeah, and then Pete just beats the shit out of him.
Just follows him as Peter Parker, then he changes into his suit when he meets him in the sewer and just starts beating on him.
Yeah, because Spider-Man's an asshole.
He keeps like his internal thoughts. He's always like he's just so angry at the world. Like earlier when he stops the carjackers just by his tone of voice, basically.
The plot of Ghostbusters 2, the slime is making him feel angry.
Yeah, and then there's this dumb slime thing, which like has him realize.
Yeah, it's a good guy. I really want to.
I have to look into that slime.
We got to get a book with the slime and the amoeba.
It was kind of interesting, like the initial like Ben in the hospital scene. I think for like the first few panels, you assume that it's Peter.
Yeah.
And then he sees Spider-Man out the window, and he tries to get out, and he has the dumbest plan.
He goes to the roof.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Spider-Man, the guy who swings from buildings and has to covertly get inside of buildings, take his suit off.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll go to the roof to escape him. Like, you couldn't have picked a worse way to leave the building if you're trying to avoid Spider-Man. So maybe Ben's a little dumb too. And so, I don't know, that's pretty much all that happens.
But we have this awesome confrontation on the roof.
Yeah. And so then at the last page, it tells us next, at long last, power and responsibility. After this crossover, nothing will ever be the same for the wall crawler. And that's not just cheap hype. And over the next 40 episodes or something, we will determine whether it was just cheap hype. And
can I say, like last episode, I hated it because it just felt like a tack on to make you like. I was at the end of the episode, I was like, all right, good, we're finally ready, and now we've seen them and we have the confrontation. Like, all right, let's go. I'm so excited.
All right, yeah. So first of all, a little bit of spoilers. That final caption is next, at long last, power and responsibility. That's not actually what we're reading next.
God damn it.
We are following the reading order of the complete epic trade paperbacks, which are in.
Yet.
No, yeah, we're going right into the Clone Saga, but for those versions, they decided to put it in chronological reading order rather than by publishing order. So the next episode is going to be some Ben Riley. The next two episodes are going to be Ben Riley backstory stuff.
Oh, cool.
Oh boy.
And then we get into the actual confrontation. Yeah, so the next episode is going to be like actual like origin Ben Riley stuff with the Jackal. And those were originally backups in the first few crossovers. And then the next episode will be the Lost Years miniseries, which is Dave Mateus and John Romita Jr. showing what Ben Riley's been doing for like the past whatever many years.
I like.
Yeah. So some status quo stuffs. Just as we mentioned, Aunt May has a stroke. She's in the hospital. MJ and Peter are having issues. I don't think that's really mentioned at all in this issue.
It's brought up. It's like he has like a sentence about it. He says something about their fighting.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
So I was flipping through some of the other issues, like that came out this same month, and like all the other stuff right before the Clone Saga. MJ is leaving for a while because she's kind of having like a little bit of an identity crisis, and she's going to like her hometown or whatever. I don't know. She's like trying to deal with some of her past, but I don't think she's gone too long. And as is hinted at in this issue, Pete might be going a little crazy, and he's having a very literal identity crisis, and he may be developing schizophrenia. That's the way they present it.
I like characters with schizophrenia.
And part of that schizophrenia on Peter's part is fueled by the fact that a little while ago, life model decoys of his parents showed up at his house as manipulated by the chameleon. And they were around, and he thought they were real for like a full year pretty much in publishing time, not within the stories. And then he saw them die in front of him. So I don't think that's going to be heavily referenced, but that's why he's going crazy. Obviously, Ben Reilly is now officially around, and he's been doing something for a while. Also, right before the Clone Saga, so this like Scorpion arc isn't a huge deal. It's just a 2-part story throwaway. But the last arc before the Clone Saga in Amazing Spider-Man was called The Shrieking, and it's ostensibly a Carrion arc, but it wasn't super related to the clone stuff, so we skipped it. And basically the setup of that is that Malcolm McBride, who's the new Carrion, is torn between his real mother and his kind of like fake role player mother, Shriek. And it comes after Maximum Carnage, where Shriek and Carrion were hanging out with Carnage and just doing bad shit. But then it ties it back to the spectacular stuff that we did last episode that humanized Carrion. And that doesn't really make much sense either, because at the end of Maximum Carnage, Carrion gets cured of his virus, but apparently it was dormant. And then at the end of Shrieking, he gets cured of the virus by Shriek. But the Clone Saga is about to happen, so you can expect Carrion to show up at some point. And then another important status quo thing is that Venom Eddie Brock currently has a pact with Spider-Man, and as long as they don't fuck with each other, they're good, and they'll leave each other alone. And he's currently in San Francisco doing his Lethal Protector thing. So now that pretty much has us caught up. And the next thing we're doing, I mean, I already said we're doing some Ben Reilly's backup stuff, but we're officially moving into the actual Clone Saga.
Yes.
So excited.
So how are you guys feeling? What are your hopes and fears?
I've never really read any Ben Reilly, but I also don't care about him at all. So like, I'm not looking forward to this, but I also am not looking forward to it. I'm gonna read it all, and I'm gonna see if I can care about Ben Reilly, but I don't know. Something tells me I won't.
I can't be more excited. I think I'm in the minority. I think the Scarlet Spider looks cool. I also think his later Spider-Man costume also looks cool.
Okay, but
So you got 2 marks there, but like I'm just along the ride of this full-on craziness, and I cannot wait to see how horrible it gets. And I really want to see if it is as bad as everyone says it is.
Well, I think a major part of the reputation is not necessarily the quality of the actual comics, but you have to remember that this literally took almost 2 entire years. So the real question would be how long whether we even finish this. And if we do, by the end, whether we just want to kill ourselves, because there's going to be so much stuff.
Maybe it reads better if you read a lot of it at once. I don't know. I have a feeling it won't.
I feel like if you had to read this ongoing, like as it came out and had that month between issues, you would want to kill yourself.
Like, I have no idea what actually happens. All I hear about is negative stuff, but nothing like specifically. So
yeah. All I know is that
going in blind.
Everyone was happy when this is how it's been described to me. I don't even know if this is how this plays out, is that Ben Reilly is fighting Hobgoblin, and Hobgoblin like takes him and like drives him down into the ground with the glider, and that's how he dies. And
spoiler.
Every comic fan like has a sigh of relief at that moment.
Or they shed a tear.
Or they shed a tear.
Mostly
Now-
relief, though.
Some somewhat minor spoilers, but I mean, this is a 20-year-old story.
It's true.
So here's some things we can get excited for. Okay. So there's the whole thing. Doc Ock dies. Did you guys know that?
No, I didn't know that.
I don't think so.
Doc Ock dies in the Clone Saga. Aunt May dies.
I knew that.
We get an origin for the symbiotes.
Why?
Why?
Well, whatever.
Whatever.
We have Kane, of course.
I don't like Kane either.
I don't like.
We have a new Green Goblin who is a good guy,
What the fuck?
and he has his own Uncle Ben. We have maximum clonage. Did you know that Ben Reilly joins the New Warriors?
No, I didn't know that.
Didn't
We're
know
reading
that.
that too.
Yep. After Doc Ock dies, there's a female Doc Ock.
I knew that. Lady Octopus.
Did not know that. Did not know that.
We have a Punisher crossover miniseries.
Is it drawn by Jim Lee?
Okay.
No. We're gonna read a full Venom miniseries in the process.
Oh my god, that sounds awful.
Aw.
Billy will enjoy that though.
Spider-Man gets put on trial for murder.
Actually, I think I
He
kind
should have
of
been.
about that.
He should have been on trial for murder back when Gwen Stacy.
No.
Armored Daredevil shows up.
Okay.
I do know that.
I've seen a picture of that.
Ben Reilly hangs out with Howard the Duck and Gambit.
Hey, I like Gambit.
That's all I'll name for now. We have a lot to look forward to.
All right, Ben Reilly better grow on me, or else I'm just gonna end up hating all of this. I'm committed.
There's a Swarm arc.
Oh.
Oh god.
It's going to be fantastic. We also see some Prime. I already said we see Bill Sienkiewicz. We see some Prime Michael Ringo. We see Dan Jurgens come over from the Superman titles to launch a new Spider-Man title.
Ooh.
Write and draw Ben Reilly. And in fact, I'm pretty sure Dan Jurgens designed the Ben Reilly Spider-Man costume.
Ooh.
I might be wrong on that though.
It's a good costume.
And we'll see tons of writers cycle through and quit. And by the end, all of the people directly involved with starting the Clone Saga and approving it quit.
I know that. I did know that.
At the end, there was a one-shot produced by the people who started the Clone Saga and did the entire Clone Saga. Marvel at least had the honesty to put out a one-shot called 101 Ways to End the Clone Saga. So we're going to read that. And then later, like 10 years later, Tom DeFalco put out a miniseries called Spider-Man the Clone Saga, which is otherwise known as the real Clone Saga, and it's supposed to be based on what was supposed to happen, and so they compressed 2 years of stories down into 6 issues.
That seems like
Is that even good?
that doesn't seem well.
And then
Well, I mean, if Ed Pescor can do it with X-Men for 300 issues, I'm sure they can do 2 years of comics in 6 issues.
And then as we finish the Clone Saga, then we have all kinds of tangents to go on. We're going to check out Mayday Parker, which spins right out of the Clone Saga, which is a really weird part that we'll get to in the end. She's the child that disappears in the end.
Wait, actually? I
Yeah,
thought that was like an alternate universe book.
it is.
Yeah, I
But
thought that
it's
was
an
an
alternate
alternate
universe if the child didn't disappear.
Oh. I thought you were saying
Um,
That's the baby that Norman eats, right?
Yeah.
That's the baby that Norman eats, right?
Yeah. We're gonna hit up the Ultimate Clone Saga.
yeah, I like that one.
See how Bendis did it.
That's a good one.
I mean, you're
We're
just
gonna
drawing
touch
this
on
out.
some. Yeah. We're gonna touch on some Ben Riley and Kane related stuff during Brand New Day. Then
Actually,
Spider
I
Island.
must have read that at some point.
oh God.
Then we're gonna hit up Kane in his tenure as the Scarlet Spider,
I don't want to read that,
which
but I
also
think I've heard
includes
good things about that.
Good. I was reading that as it came out.
some Ben Riley references. And in that process, in dealing with Kane, we're also going to hang out with the Superior Spider-Man just a little
Yes.
bit. Then we're going to deal with Spider-Verse, and
Uh,
then the Clone Conspiracy, and then we'll close out with the first arc of Ben Riley's current ongoing series.
What if by the time we get to the end of this, there's just like new developments in the Clone Saga? Are we gonna add on?
Yeah.
I mean, if there's like if 3 months from now they announce whoever the next Spider-Man writer is,
Nick Spencer.
there's going to be a crossover between Nick Spencer's Amazing Spider-Man and Ben Riley, then we're going to have to do it.
What's funny is you mentioned that all the writers and artists that were originally involved at the conception of the Clone Saga were gone. My kind of hope for this podcast is that the original people that created this podcast are no longer involved by the time they get done with it.
All right, we'll see.
Someone will pick it up.
So stick around for that for some reason.
All right.
If you're a masochist, you'll love it.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. And be sure to check out the next episode. Adios.
Have a happy New Year.
Ciao.